welcome to Atlantic Television Network. This is the Atlantic Blowout. I am Nia Bari Fakai. I hope you had a good night and welcome to today's show. Now we have great conversations lined up and of course we always give you expert opinion. And Lagos is going to be joining me. Shola is joining from Lagos. Chinyere is joining from Abuja. And we'll walk through topics in the news, but there are very specific topics we'll also pick out and expound on. And of course, as you know, the show is loaded and we're set to give you a great time this morning. Thank you for joining us. When we come back in a short break, from this short break, we'll look at just trending in the news, and of course we'll get into our main stories. Don't go anywhere.
On the facts, breaking news and in-depth interviews on a wide range of topics.
Atlantic Television Network, home for in-depth reportage, facts, professionalism, all the news you need. Atlantic Television Network. Atlantic Television Network.
Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
The making of Wish 99.5 FM and Atlantic Television Network. The renowned American coach, speaker, and author of the bestseller Awakening the Giants Within, Anthony J. Robbins said, "Setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible." This best describes the birth and storyline of Morrison Communications' Wish 99.5 FM and Atlantic Television Network broadcast brands. Morrison Communication Limited is a 100% wholly Nigerian indigenous private company incorporated in 2003. The company has a three-pronged line of business: ICT, events, and media. Her media engagements commenced in 2003 with the establishment of Wish newspaper and 2005 with Wish International magazine. It has established and operated several internet centers across the country. Morrison is still one of the major event management organizations with high-profile shows to her credit, as well as parading the state-of-the-art equipment in the sector. The company ventured into electronic media by applying for license to operate a radio channel in 2008 and procured equipment to show its readiness and determination. However, this was not to be, as bureaucracy and state act did not allow the realization of the dream. In 2017, the company employed a strategic approach which led to the establishment of Wish 99.5 FM, Port Harcourt, Nigeria's business radio, and has continued to dominate the broadcasting sphere. The company's development plan brought about the announcement that it is establishing a television network in 2020, which many saw as a dream. in reminiscence of Roy T. Bennett's quote that dreams don't work unless you take action. The surest way to make your dreams come true is to live them. True to the fact, in January 2021, the world woke up to reality of the birth of Atlantic Television Network, ATN, a state-of-the-art digital network. Atlantic Television Network, ATN, is a 24-hour live broadcast station with headquarters in Wish Complex, Wish Avenue along NTA Choba Road in Port Harcourt City, Rivers State, with the digital centers in Abuja, Lagos, and correspondents across Nigeria. ATN was built to begin full transmission at the end of the first quarter of 2020, but installations were put on hold following the outbreak of COVID-19 global pandemic, a major setback not to Morrison Communication but to the whole wide world. Believing in the treatise of entrepreneur, media mogul and founder of cable news network CNN, Ted Turner, that you should set goals beyond your reach so you always have something to live for. The goal set by the chairman of Morrison Communications Limited, Dr. Chinyere Igwe Esquire, seemed daunting given the prevailing circumstance. The entrepreneurial spirit of the company, against all odds, pushed through the COVID-19 tide and saw to the completion and birth of Atlantic Television Network in the first quarter of 2021. According to George Herbert, to him that wills, ways are not wanting, which in contemporary times means where there is a will, there will always be a way. And ATN commenced test transmission in July 2021 and embarked on full broadcast transmission 1st September 2021. The network transmits 24-hour live broadcasts of news, current affairs, and entertainment with stakeholders' analysis, experts' opinion, and many more every day. To the glory of God, we are the first indigenous television network station with international reach from the east of the Niger. As the 26th President of the United States of America, Theodore Roosevelt Jr. said, "Believe you can, and you are halfway there." Atlantic Television Network is here to stay and have everything it takes to get there and beyond. Atlantic Television Network, anchoring facts.
Welcome back to Atlantic Blowout right here on Atlantic Television Network. And yes, today our guest in the studio, Friday Obodo, Comrade Friday Obodo. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Fakai, and good morning, viewers.
Okay. So before we get into our lineup for our stories today, a few stories in the news that caught my attention, and I think we should just walk through it now. Governor Soludo of Anambra State has just been in the news consistently for different things. Yesterday, we spoke about him being in the news, talking about not having enough in the coffers, declaring that it was about 200 to 400 million naira that was left in the coffers of the bank. Now, there are angles that have come. Some people have said, of course, money should not be left in the accounts of the states. I mean, whoever is there should spend the money and make sure that everything is, spent, because that's what the money is for. But on the flip side, we also have that some of the people are considering that if it's a state state ought to be run like a business. So you can't always be bankrupt at every time. You can't always exhaust whatever is there because suddenly somebody else is coming. There should be a handoff, a protocol, and of course there should be resources. Now, yesterday we talked about that, and details of what ought to be in the handover note. Well, a handover note is supposed to state what is obviously available, and the details of that. But today, he's now talking about security and how he will face security, handle the insecurity in the southeast. And I'm thinking about it because he is when it comes to development, when it comes to business and strategies, he has proven himself over time with the CBN and other businesses that he has managed. So I'm also looking at the economics of the iPod, because this conversation is centered around what he looks to do, what he seeks to do, especially because of the unrest that has happened around the communities of Ihiala and Newi South, local government areas. We once talked about the Lilu and the Osormubu indigents that had to flee because there were some iPod characters or seemingly iPod characters that stayed and extorted from them. And so we're here now. He is saying he wants to focus on it, and that, of course, one of the things that have also beaten the Igbo economy is the stay-at-home that has been engineered by the IPOB. But I'll let my guest in the studio today, Comrade Obodo Friday, come in on this thought. What's your take on Governor Soludo's position, and highlight that IPOB element, because that's what we want to understand.
Yeah, ordinarily, Soludo should be in the news now.
Yes.
Because he's the governor of Anambra State. Seeing that he has taken that mantle, we ordinarily expect once in a while to hear from him what he has to say. I also look at the money side of the whole news. The truth is that Anambra must react, not necessarily Soludo. Anambra must react to the arrest of Obiano, and there is no better way of reacting to that than talking about how much is left and how much is not left, so that we can possibly have a good grip of him in EFCC. But that being said, Soludo again, one thing I can personally point to him, like you said, is that he's a professional person. He's proving himself over the years. We wait and see what he's going to do again in Anambra, now in the driver's seat. The issue of the economy of Anambra and that of the Southeast generally is a difficult one. Difficult in the sense that whether we like it or not, we know that the Igbo man in Nigeria is quite entrepreneurial, and they like business, and business is a minute by minute, if not second by second activity and money making and all that. So if we consider this critically and now juxtapose it with the fact that there is a sit at home in the Igbo land for one day, in fact for 1 hour, then the Igbo man would have lost a lot of money. And we are talking about a lot of money, not a child's play. We are talking about millions, perhaps billions. Each day there is a sit at home. I can also understand that some persons will make the argument that, okay, we are doing sit at home even though we lose money, but the primary focus is on the fact that we want to talk about liberation. I have no problem with liberation. I have no problem with emancipation. However, the idea drives us, but we must also consider that each sit at home costs our brothers a lot of money.
Okay, so while that is the case, we are hoping that they can get over whatever that challenge is, whatever these limitations are, and get into it. I know that Shola has joined us on the show. Good morning, Shola.
Thank you.
All right, Shola. What's going on in Abuja this morning, Shola?
It is still the atmosphere is charged ahead of the APC National Convention that will be coming up on Saturday. Every part of Abuja is colorful, and if you go to the Eagle Square as of yesterday evening, they are already putting up all the apparatus and paraphernalia to let them know APC is won, and they are ready to welcome the entire world to Eagle Square for the national convention that's so much awaited, and people are really talking about it. And the in-house, I think all their gladiators are come together at this point to see how they can have one house ahead and in preparation for 2023. Not even now when the opposition party, the major opposition party, the PDP, are already coming together at the level of their governors forum. To those people yesterday, they were actually at Enugu, Abia State, where they had their governors forum meeting. So the entire Abuja is gearing up, and we can see that the issue of PMS is subsiding gradually, and normalcy is returning back to the city of Abuja. Only that the power issue is still unbearable.
All right, thank you so much, Shola. You just picked it, you put us there, so I'll follow you at the point of the convention and the APC. We know that the president and the leaders of the APC, they are working at what is being called a rancor-free convention. This it has been also indicated that what will make this work is at the point where they get to have the emergence of consensus candidates, as it is. So I'll come to you, I guess, in the studio, first of all, on the idea of the APC convention. First of all, what are the expectations? What do you perceive will be the outcome of that convention? And what's your position on consensus and these other elements that have come because of the amendment of the bill, the electoral bill?
You know, when it comes to party politics, I am one person who believes that the party should be allowed to play politics, because that's what it's all about anyway. So to that extent, whatever measures that a political party decides to adopt, provided it is uniform, provided it is not against the law, it becomes part of the game. Now, looking at expectations from the Saturday convention, I like the fact that you said it's a rancor-free convention. That's what is targeted. But I'm afraid that we may not get that rancor-free, even though we decide to adopt a consensus candidate. Here is my reason. Before this time, the APC, as the major political party in the helm of affairs, I'm sorry to say, it's not a harsh indictment, has not conducted itself very well. I can also understand the reason for the polarization. At some point, a lot of energies were put into it, and the energies, rather than build them, try to tear them apart because of different ambitions. That's normal thing in politics, but what is abnormal here is that it was not properly managed, and you would know what has been happening in the last few weeks about Bello and Buni and all that and all that. So I fear that we may not have anything so concrete to come out of this APC convention. If anything, what I'm actually anticipating, I'm not expecting it, but what I'm anticipating is that there will be a lot of litigations following the outcome of that convention.
Okay, so when you say litigations, it means people who feel that their rights were infringed on.
Yes.
And okay, it is also happening now. We have you heard about the sack of the people who moved from a party A to a party B. and they're making cases about that. A convention like this, as it is said, the negotiation to get a sense of that consensus is something that is there. But when you look at consensus and emergence now, so who are the players that you think will pop up? Because we've also heard some people who have speculated, some people who say they are specialists in the field, and then some other people have speculated that post the primaries, APC may crack if some people do not emerge. So what's your position on that assertion?
That's actually the major issue. You know, sometimes when you look at consensus would have to deal with a give and take kind of arrangement. But here, the major challenge is almost everyone is targeting the presidency. They want to fly the flag of the party. Nobody wants to back down. Ordinarily, we would have said, okay, this is your structure. This other person has this structure. The other person has this structure. We look at, okay, from your structure, if we give you party chairman, then we take the flag bearer, and then we give the other people the secretary, or we do this and that. Here, all the key players, all the major contenders, like we will always say in our political language, gladiators, are targeting becoming president. Okay. Like, for instance, Amechi wants to be president of Nigeria, even though I'm not sure he has officially declared. Tinubu has declared. The vice president is being rumored here and there and all that. So this is where the party is going to have a lot of challenges with consensus, because nobody is ready to swallow the pride and say, okay, let the party move on. It's like what Obasanjo would say those days, do or die.
Okay, do or die as it is. Shola, if you are there, you can get on the conversation now.
This is an epic making the convention as described by the leaders of APC, and I think this time around they have every reason to go into that convention undivided. In the face of their 41.7 million registered members, I don't think that party will stand to, they will not come and disgrace themselves. And because they're trying to see how they can harness this strength, 41.7 million registered members. See how they can harness them in winning election come 2023. So they wouldn't dare it to go into that convention and entry themselves in controversies. But we can still not let it go without talking about so many litigations, cases that due to their inability to handle their local government, the world congresses and the state congresses across the nation. A lot of their state chapters are polarized. They are still at the court. We don't know if before Saturday morning, many of these litigations will have been withdrawn. But as it stands today, we still have a lot of problems there and there. Mr. President, the leader of the political party, has shown strength by endorsing somebody in the person of the former governor of Nasarawa State, and despite the fact that Mr. President has shown interest in one of the candidates, they are still going ahead to purchase funds. We are going to see a contest in that convention. In order not to have situation like Mr. Obodo have just said, the Mr. President, the leader of the party, the gladiators, they need to sit down between now and Saturday morning to see how they can at least drop the shame and the ego and go into that convention like their counterpart PDP that are always going to convention with a united list. Let's see if they can achieve it. If not, we cannot say.
All right, as you've said it, if not, we cannot say. All right, so other stories in the news. EFCC releases Willie Obiano on bail. I'll let Friday Obodo talk about this for a minute. The concern that I have here is it seems like it's the same thing that happened. Some people have said it. People get into power, post immunity, they get arrested, they're set free. Nobody really follows through with confirming that the issue is the issue, and they are exonerated from whatever they've been accused of. But in this case, EFCC Obiano, what's your thoughts on it?
My thought would lean towards the issue of accountability and nation management. And then it will also touch on the weakness of the populace. The simple reason why people get arrested and we don't get to hear anything about it, I think I attribute it solely on the weakness of the populace. We appear not to have a system that monitors us. We appear not to have a people who can speak for us. And the most worrisome is actually the fact that, and it's a fact indeed, that we do not see people for who they are. I know why I'm saying this. Imagine that a governor, or let's say a chairman of a local government, misbehaves tomorrow as a local government chairman. 10 years later, he's coming to contest governor. Nobody asked question of his misbehavior. He just gave me 1 minute, so I'm afraid, But here is the problem. So Willie Obiano is out. Willie Obiano cannot even on his own go tomorrow to clear his name, because at the end of the day, we see less of politics on it. But we also know that there was, whether we like it or not, financial misappropriation because of the way Nigeria is being managed. We manage it in such a way that it is my personal property, not looking at it as governance and something that I have to account tomorrow.
All right. Shola?
It is the fight between two brothers. I hope the ongoing passes between the incoming and outgoing governor rather, will not snowball into crisis that would disturb the business of governance in Anambra State. But be as it may, the Obiano is having his days with Nigerian security agencies, anti-corruption agencies, and what have you. We still need the input of the sitting governor in all this. How they are going to resolve. It is left for the leaders of the people of Anambra State as far as politics, economy, and everybody is concerned. We will definitely get to the bottom, the root cause of all this trouble in due course. Mr. Obodo, do you see this affecting the governance in Anambra State?
Sure. Everything that happens in government affects the ordinary people, because the government is there for the people, and in fact, the people lean towards the government for every solution. So any crack, in fact, no matter how minute the stress in government is the people that suffers.
We hope they resolve this issue to save the lives, the properties, the governors, and everything that is involved in Anambra, because people are expecting to who much is given, much is expected. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Shola, for that. Still on the news highlights. Just made it in. A former president has declared former vice president rather, that's Atiku Abubakar, has declared he's running for presidency. Now, that's not the angle of the story. Now, looking at the entire idea of federal character, remember we've had that in the conversation, and it looked like the concept of zoning was happening so as to retain that sense of federal character, being that some time has gone to the north, some should come to the south, and that balance is there. But now we have players like this Atiku coming, declaring, and of course he is a PDP player. I'll come to you, sir, Comrade Friday Obodo, on this thoughts. What's your general take on that idea of federal character? And if players like this are declaring, will that really matter come 2023?
Yes, it does matter. It matters because we're trying to look at fairness, we're trying to look at equity, we're trying to look at justice. And if we focus on the idea of zoning, which some of us do not want to hold strong views as to the propriety or otherwise of it, but then we think that at this level of our development in our national politics and economic development, that zoning may be a good idea, just so that every area, every ethnic group, every state feels, or at least the major blocks of Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba feel a sense of belonging to that common entity called Nigeria. I think at this level of our developmental life, that zoning is important. And so, if a northerner currently in the person of President Muhammadu Buhari is the president of Nigeria, then we should allow the other blocks to also take over the power or the seat of governance. But looking at federal character specifically, I think federal character has got more to do with appointment in government rather than who becomes the president of Nigeria.
All right. So, Shala, on to you on this.
Yeah, we can see that big guys are coming they are coming into the stage, and we are seeing the likes of Bola Tinubu, we are seeing the likes of Atiku Abubakar. These are money bags. Do you think INEC is up to task?
Do you think INEC is up to task?
Oh, INEC up to task in Nigeria? I doubt, because one, it is not, in my estimation, it is not within the power of INEC to decide who flags the flag of a political party. So to that extent, I'm wondering what can INEC really do in the face of people like Bola Tinubu, in the face of people like Atiku Abubakar and the rest of them. Can INEC really change anything? Will INEC come up now to say that, oh, Atiku, you cannot contest the PDP primaries? Can INEC stop Bola Tinubu, for instance? I feel
in as much as we know INEC is not having that power constitutional right to stop anybody. I'm looking at the angle of the two of them. We're looking at structure for structure, strength for strength, money for money. These are people that have been taking decision over time as far as the electioneering system is concerned in this country. I'm saying, do you think INEC, with all their apparatus, with all what they have, they can stand these people when it comes to influences?
You know, the problem, sometimes I look at the institutional challenges we have in Nigeria to be the major bane of the political challenges we have. INEC is structured in such a way it is an umpire and should be an unbiased umpire, meaning that when it comes to wherever the presidential candidate of any political party should come from, INEC has little or nothing to do. I understand the area of money bag and the influences they weigh. INEC can really do something. I share an experience. I contested as SCG president in the University of East London. And then the election management constrained us to the extent that you cannot spend 1 kobo or 1 pound of your own outside what the budget for that election was. And that budget was given to us. You spend and you bring receipt of everything you spent. Then I think mine was about 200 pounds. You couldn't spend beyond 200 pounds. If we look at INEC in that kind of perspective, then yes, INEC can constrain the political gladiators to say, look, as maybe make an extant law, make a rule, which is, of course, backed up by the governor, the constitution of Nigeria, to the extent that XYZ is not allowed in our political system. If they do that, then they would have frustrated those who think that only their money can earn them political power. Otherwise, there's very little or nothing that INEC can do again to stop the like of Atiku Abubakar, who has all the money to play around with. And, you know, at the end of the day, like the other question you asked me when we were talking about Anambra, at the end of the day, it's the Nigerian people that are suffering, because right now, I honestly think that the likes of Tinubu, the likes of Atiku Abubakar should go and become statesmen, should go and rest and support young people or younger persons to see how we can bring fresh thinking into the politics of Nigeria. Because whether we like it or not, if Tinubu becomes the president of Nigeria today, we're just going to be doing the still old things that we've been doing. If Atiku Abubakar, who has been a vice president the last 20 years ago or more, becomes the president of Nigeria today, we're just going to be doing those, those kind of Obasanjo Atiku thing of 1999, when some of us were not even born, I'm afraid.
Most time during an electionary period like this, we always have situation whereby forces, factors are out there to determine who wins the day. For this 2023 election we are looking at, do you think we can lay our hand on any of the factor of forces? It looks so undecided, though. What do you think?
Lay our hands on what he said.
Any factor, any of the forces.
Sorry, I didn't get that question. If you put it again.
Okay. I said that most time, are you hearing me clearly now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, most time we always have factors, forces that determines our elections. But now we are looking at a situation whereby we cannot really lay our hand on any. I'm saying it's looking so undecided ahead 2023 election.
No, I think in the contrary, actually. When you talk about factors that determine our election, we have pretty much pointed at the money, one of them. And that money is still there. What we don't know is whether Togri will take center stage again this time around. Whether ballot snatching and all those criminal activities which we seem to undermine sometimes, that they are quite criminal in activity in nature, whether those ones will play. But considering what money does to the psyche of people, then I can expect, it's unfortunate to say this, but we can expect that Togri and the other activities will play again, because what influences them is money. By the time, for instance, I put like 100 million naira to a youth group who I know too well that they carry arm, and then tell them that here is 100 million, if you can do this dirty job, then you go home with it. You can be surprised that, especially again, look at the problem of hunger in the land. So when people are faced with hunger and faced with 100 million naira to play with, and all it takes is to pull the trigger, you can be sure that some persons will. And these are some of the factors that influence our election. So I honestly think that 2023 may not be anything different. Because what is there to change the dynamics? Nothing. Nothing yet.
So definitely, zoning will not play any role in the face of all these money bags that are coming in.
Money will play a lot of roles. Money will play a lot of roles. In fact, very soon now you begin to see the money rolling out. And the people.
So what I mean is that zoning will not have a place as far as this election is concerned.
Zoning.
Yeah.
I pray zoning does, especially at the federal level, and in fact across. I'm not an advocate of zoning, so to speak, but I think that the stage where we are right now in our political life, that zoning goes to pacify certain aggrieved groups. I think so. This is my honest, candid opinion. I'm not here to say that we must zone, but I'm thinking that in this, where we are right now, as a nation, where we are in our various states, that zoning is not a bad idea. It's not a terrible idea at all.
With your analysis, you know that money will play a major role rather than looking into zoning.
Money and zoning. Well, money and zoning is a matter of the conscience of political parties rather than that of the population. Yeah, because when we talk about zoning, it is not the populace that is going to decide zoning, it is the political party. Now, and if not that some people are greedy and selfish, those who are there to decide what happens in their various political parties, I can tell you 99% of them are not hungry. They are the governors, they are the senators and all that. So what exactly can money do to them that they have not got? But for maybe carelessness, I don't want to call it wickedness, carelessness to the sensitivities of Nigeria. Otherwise, a sitting governor should beat his conscience and say, look, I want us to zone. For instance, I'm not making a case for the Igbo man, but you know that in 1999, it was the Yorubas, in the person of Obasanjo. Thereafter, we went to the north, at Yaradua, with Jonathan, and something happened along the line. We said, okay, let us settle it. We came back and brought Buhari now. Clearly, the Igbo man, especially the Southeasterners, have not had a taste of this thing since 1999 to today. I'm not making a case for them, but will it not be reasonable in the spirit of nationalism, in the spirit of fairness, justice, and equity to say, let us allow these people to produce the president of Nigeria come 2023. If we do that, I think the outside world will be seeing us as people who are trying to strive towards fairness.
Do you think we have gone to that stage not to allow to stop money to decide our election, rather sentiments?
Sentiment, money, sentiment.
Right. I'm just like, let us look at money and sentiment. Don't you think money over time will overrule sentiment in our life as a nation when it comes to our election?
Yeah, it's already doing that. Okay, fine. Look at it now. The intimidation is already there. The likes of Atiku Abubakar is going to intimidate anybody. I'm not saying that the Igbo people are not rich, but if you look at the political players in the southeastern states, I doubt any of them can match Atiku Abubakar, for instance, in terms of money. I doubt. Maybe with support from brothers and sisters, they can do something. But individually speaking, the financial strength of Atiku Abubakar cannot be compared to that of, for instance, Ekweremadu, who is a possible presidential candidate. You come to the APC, you see Tinubu, who some of us are amazed by his level of wealth. That same idea is still there. So I can already sense the intimidation. So money is going to probably swallow up this sentiment I'm trying to look at, which is that, okay, let us try to be fair. Let us try to look at whether at this stage in our national life, we can say, okay, let the Southeasterners bring the next president of Nigeria. Money will definitely suppress that.
A lot of if the money bags in the Southeast pull their weight together against these money bags from other region.
That would be lovely, but sometimes we wait and see if that happens. Of course, there are, like I said, there are definitely persons who are equal to the task, but are they willing to make that sacrifice when it is not very personal?
Thank you, Friday Obodo.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Shola. On to this, just this one topic before we get into the rest of the conversation. It's still in the news. It says the presidency accuses PDP for plotting to destabilize Nigeria, and this is sequel to a statement that the PDP had put out saying. Directed at the president, saying President Muhammadu Buhari needs to be reminded of his duties to Nigerians to, in the least, show more empathy, competence, and concern as our country rapidly drifts towards a looming precipice. So it goes on, talks about law and order, talks about cost of petrol and all that. And of course, it's a party job. Saying the president must take responsibility, but then the presidency has responded to this, saying that the PDP over this particular comment is looking to destabilize Nigeria. Now, in ways this will happen is what I really do not know. Some people talk about the reflexive experience of what has happened here. Some people say we can relate because the cost is what the cost is. But is it really the fault of the president and the presidency? We will get Comrade Friday Obodo to say one or two things about this. But I know that Lagos has joined us this morning. Good morning, Chinyere.
Hi, good morning, Nia.
How are you doing this morning? How is Lagos?
Lagos is doing great. Good to see you. It's been a while. Good morning, Friday Obodo. Good to see you on the show.
Good morning.
Okay, so on to this conversation. What's your general take on this?
I think it's rather the fault of the presidency than that of the president. I've always believed that the persons around the president makes a lot of influence on what the outcome of governance is. But when you talk about what the PDP said and what the federal government is responding, my mind go back to those days when we were in primary school and secondary school and we talk about question and answer. If I look at what PDP have said as a question, I don't think the appropriate answer is what is coming from the presidency, because the PDP is clearly saying, show more competence. Do the right thing. Let the people know that you are our president. Let the people know that we are in a country. And then the presidency is coming out to say, oh, you are saying this to destabilize the country. I don't think, looking at it like question and answer, that the presidency has answered the question. I want the president to answer the question, to say, this is what and what and what I have done. This is what and what and what I want to do in the next 12 months before I leave office. Rather than saying, oh, because you said this, you want to destabilize the country. Nigeria is not that country. I know we can always expect surprises, but Nigeria is not that country where the comment of PDP can just overnight destabilize the nation. Let the presidency respond with facts and figures to show that this is what I'm doing, this is what I intend doing for governance.
Okay, Shola, you want to go on this conversation?
Yeah, we can continue to talk about them because we just need to make, for the purpose of our audience, I want Friday Obodo to clearly define the role of opposition in our in the country.
You know, that's a good question. The role, starting from this news now, I think the role of opposition party is actually what the PDP has now put out. To say, Mr. President, we want you to be more competent. At that point, I see them as being very nationalistic. I see them as being very patriotic. I don't see any witch hunt. I don't see any attempt at destabilizing the country. And that is what opposition party should be doing. The opposition party is such a party that should be telling the country, yes, you are the leader right now, even though we are preparing to take over from you, but right today, this minute, you are the leader. We want you to show leadership. The opposition party should be that party that will be telling us that XYZ is not in order. That should be telling us that ASU strike, perennial ASU strike, should not be in a country like Nigeria where we are trying to advance education. The opposition party should be telling us that there should be electricity in Abuja. You know, earlier on in this program, you were telling us that the problem of electricity is still persisting. The opposition party should be telling us that this is not supposed to be. And when the opposition party says that, I expect the government to respond by making sure that light is restored, that education is fixed, and all those. That's the role of the opposition party, sir.
What makes the ruling party in most cases see anything coming from the opposition as attacking?
Well, that's the natural nature of anything coming from the opposition party. And that's what it should be. But at the end of the day, you read in between lines and say, are there some positives from, even though it appears attacking, because of course in Nigeria and in many parts of the world, party politics is more like adversarial thing. We are in a war front, and it's understandable. But even in the midst of that war, can we engage best practices by looking at carefully reviewing what has the opposition pinpointed and what can be done? Because sometimes too, like in our local parlance, they say that when your enemy is criticizing you, sometimes he's advising you as well.
Opposition today can become the ruling party tomorrow because the APC was once there as opposition. How do we enshrine tolerance in our governance?
The PDPs, well, I don't know if it will happen for them in 2023, but the PDP, of course, is a potential political party to take over from APC if they are ready. I worry that their own structure right now is not also speaking anything to that effect. And for me, that's worrisome because I think that neither the PDP nor APC should be leading Nigeria in 2023. I strongly think that. If I want to be honest to myself, if I want to be realistic, if I want to think of Nigeria first before thinking about myself, I think that the PDP and the APC should not win 2023 presidential election.
Is it because the two parties lack tolerance, or what do you think?
In fact, sometimes if you say the truth, it appears that you're trying to make a harsh indictment. But like someone was saying on radio this morning while I was coming to this studio, he said that the APC and PDP are the same. Everybody in APC today were once in PDP. And can we not agree, especially those of us who have been around from 1999 to today, that what the person was saying is true? Now, the challenge I have is the other political parties and the other individuals who can actually lead our states and the nation have not been able to galvanize the support they need, have not been able to mobilize the people enough to sensitize us on why it should not be APC and PDP. And I expect them to do that.
As this bickering is becoming so unhealthy to the governors of this country. Thank you.
All right. Chinwe is set to join us on this conversation. Over to you, dear. Chinwe, are you there?
Thank you so much.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. Are we getting to the meat of the day?
Yeah.
Should I move to the first topic?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All
Go
right.
ahead,
Thank you
go
so
ahead.
much, Mr. Friday Obodo. It's always refreshing to have you on the program. So, National Assembly is asking the CBN to reintroduce some lower denominations into our currency. How do you think this correlates with the CBN's overall push for a cashless economy, which inter alia helped reduce the cost of printing these physical legal tenders? That's one question. The other question is, in October 2021, we saw that the e-naira was introduced and touted as a game changer aimed at further reducing our dependence on cash transactions. And the e-naira was also designed to reduce our unbanked population. If you compare these policies, extant policies, and what they're talking about now, which is to introduce coins into as a legal tender, it seems to be at a huge discordance. Mr. Friday, can we have your 2 cents on this?
Well, when I saw the news this morning, I just thought to myself, the business of governance will continue, the activities or the oversight function of the House of National Assembly will continue forever. But I also thought to myself that the introduction of coins into our economy is not a new idea. I know that few years ago we came around the coin again, and few days later it disappeared. I think the last time I visited this studio, we were talking about how the federal government said they want to reduce inflation and all that. I think strongly that the lack of coin in circulation is of a truth the reason why there is a lot of hike in our economy. But then the coin cannot also survive in the kind of economy we have. Now think about it in that direction. Bringing in coins to our economy will help the economy, will help bring down inflation, but the coin cannot survive because the coin has become so useless. I don't know what 10 naira can buy right now in Nigeria. Not to talk about 2 naira and 1 naira. So you find that it becomes very useless, and there's a law we call the law of use and disuse. So when you don't use these things, then it cannot survive. It cannot survive because we have dollarized our economy, and almost everything we do is influenced by the dollar. I think there's another news that touches on that. If you juxtapose that with the fact that we are trying to allow our coins see the light of day in the country, I see it's a very long way to go. I doubt that right now the National Assembly has an answer to that problem. It's a serious problem because until our naira becomes at least closer or equal to the dollar, it will be difficult. It's not a bad idea to have the coin. In fact, I actually think that the coin is a good idea to be in Nigeria, because I'm wondering if things continue to go the way they are. As we speak right now, 1,000 naira appears to be nothing in Nigeria again. So it means that very soon we are going to be having a note, a single note that will be like 5,000, 20,000. And then when you continue to calculate, you're already dealing budget in trillions and all that. I don't know when the mathematical figure will come to an end. So we'll be doing a budget in infinity. These are some of the problems that coin can help us address in Nigeria. It has nothing to do with cashless economy, like the second question touches. Whether there is cashless policy or not does not completely remove cash transaction in a system. For instance, if you go to the UK, for instance, you find that up to today, even though they are operating seemingly a cashless economy, but those their coins are still there. You see an old woman have a little purse in her hand where she puts all the coins. And I also looked at it that is also creating a sense of carefulness in individuals. If you, sorry to be very personal, if you come to my house now, my wife and my children know that I have a specific place where I keep my car key. I have a specific place where I keep, little things that when you are looking for them, they will frustrate you. So I don't look for things. And this is an idea I got living in the UK, having to spend coin. Because if you keep coin carelessly, you won't be able to find it for a very long time. So we have a place where we throw in those coins. If we do that in Nigeria, I don't know whether it will help Nigerians. They will be finding way of being more careful. Maybe I'm just saying something I cannot explain. Hello, Chiene.
All right, Mr. Friday, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's give it a more run-of-the-mill approach, because when we discuss issues like this, I like to give it a layman's approach. Let the ordinary Nigerian have access to what government is talking about. We've seen the cost of diesel go up, and factories, even coal rooms, let's say coal rooms, are really complaining about the cost of diesel, because that's what most people use to run their businesses. So now they're looking to government to help reduce the cost of diesel. And here we are talking about introduction of coins into as a legal tender. Is this the sort of conversation that we should be having? If the ordinary man needs to understand, how does this affect the price of goods and commodities in the market? How will this affect, help to reduce or crash the price of goods and commodities in the market, so that the common man can be somewhat comfortable?
The question you're asking now is like saying, if we should introduce coin to our economy, the man who is going to buy diesel of, say, 100,000 naira will have to carry like 3 bags of coin. And that is the truth. This is why I was suggesting that it is very difficult for the coin to survive in the Nigerian economy, because it is practically impossible now for us to buy anything at 2 naira. In fact, it is difficult now. I don't know how many items you can still buy for 10 naira as we speak right now. I don't even think that sugar, a cube of sugar, can still be bought at 2 naira. I don't think so, or maybe 5 naira. In a sense, the only function of 5 naira in my estimation right now in Nigeria is when you bring 2 of them, or 5 of them, or 10 of them to make like 50 naira and pay for something. That's the only function that even 5 naira is playing right now. This said, it brings the whole idea alive that the only way we can make use of our coin in Nigeria, if we begin to get back to the point where our naira becomes almost equal to the dollar, so that those things that are being influenced by dollar will now become manageable in our own legal tenders. Otherwise, introducing or reintroducing, as it were, reintroducing coin into our economy will just hit the danger of not being used, and it will disappear again.
So, Mr. Friday, are you in any way suggesting, because I reckon from what you just said now, are you in any way suggesting that this may be the wrong approach? This may be the wrong conversation that we are having right now as a people, because you have said what we should be chiefly concerned about is how to bring the naira, how to equal the naira to the dollar, and look at factors that have caused the naira to lose its value, so to speak. Are we having the wrong conversation as a people?
We're not having the wrong conversation, but the National Assembly is bringing that conversation to our table at a time when the government is not prepared for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Friday Obodo. I'll take you to Nia. I'm sure Shola is also waiting to ask questions on this topic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, Shola, over to you now on the subject.
Friday, you should let us understand the angle the government is coming out by bringing out this idea. Can this solve our inflation problem?
It can make impact. Yes, it can make impact. And that's the whole essence in my thinking. That's the whole essence. And I think it's a noble idea coming from the National Assembly. The challenge is, like the analysis we are looking at, imagine me now have 2 naira coin. I don't know how many 2 naira coin I'm going to carry to the shop, to the next shop near me, to be able to buy something as simple as a bottle of mineral. You know that those of us who drink these small minerals, you find the ones of 200 naira, 150. So I don't know how many coin I'm going to carry to buy even a single bottle of Coke. Not to talk about going to buy shoe that will cost you, maybe depending on what your income is, a shoe that will cost you 10, 15, 20,000 naira. We're talking about 1,000 and we're talking about kobo. We're talking about, 2 naira. I don't know how many coins that we're going to carry to be able to buy a shoe. So this is where the problem is. It's not a bad idea. In fact, it's a good idea, so that let us try and reduce inflation. Let us try and make it. Look, one thing, let me make this point express. The reintroduction of coin will really make our naira to stabilize. But how to
you know very well in this country at the time we have so many POS stands that encourage use of coins. Like the POS from the Coca-Cola, like POS from where you go to casinos and what have you, where you know that the only acceptable medium is coin. All of a sudden, they all disappear. And how do you think CBN can enforce this? What method do you think they can use to enforce it? We don't need to lie to ourselves.
Okay, interesting. Now, you see, as we look at that question, I feel sympathy for those who would have lost their businesses because there is no coin in circulation, just as you mentioned now. Now, if there are businesses that are programmed in such a way that coin is the only acceptable means of transacting, and then there are no coin in circulation, which means those people are out of business, should we not feel sympathy for them? That sympathy will drag us to what exactly can the CBN do? The CBN can do a lot. I'm not a financial expert, but I also know that the federal government can, in some strange ways, look back to how we can really make our naira to come up, to measure with the currencies like the British pound, to measure with currencies like dollar. I can tell you that even in Nigeria right now, a lot of persons are spending dollars like a normal thing, because they do. It's difficult to say, but the truth is that they do not have confidence in our naira again. If I give you like $100 now, you can take $100 to buy a few things. But if you take what $100 will amount to, you're carrying a bulk of money. So the CBN, a starting point for me is that the CBN should make our naira to become equivalent to the dollar, whatever that means, so that we go back to the time when we begin to buy things for 1 naira. So that we'll go back to the time where we can pay transport from here, for instance, where I am now, to any major city in Port Harcourt with 50 kobo. It's just a matter of psychology when it comes to spending than any other thing. Where are we rushing to? Today you can hardly pay transport with 100 naira or 50 naira. It's difficult. So where are we rushing to? Can we go back to having value for naira such that I can go to a restaurant and then eat and pay 2 naira? At that point, it becomes very easy to pay with that coin called 2 naira. Well, I don't know what it is right now, but I know that around 2015, when I was in the UK, I could go to a McDonald's, for instance, and spend 1 point something pound. I could spend 1.5 pound and have a meal. Why can't we have that in Nigeria? And then if we do that, then we can now begin to spend our coin, as opposed to these big word of naira that we are spending. You go to a restaurant now. Don't make mistake of carrying 2 persons to a restaurant. You're spending like about 15,000 naira. In major restaurants, those small, ordinary ones, I'm not talking about the big ones that people like you will attend.
So we need a policy in this country that will encourage the manufacturers in this country to come up with some equipment that will be accepting coin. If not, approximation will always take over the business, the economy, because definitely they will approximate to the bigger notes. So thank you, Friday, on this note.
All right, thank you so much, Shola. Quick break. When we come back, of course, on to the next conversation. You are still on the Atlantic Blowout right here on Atlantic Television Network. Welcome back to Atlantic Blowout, and yes, on to the next story. The House of Representatives on this particular gist has passed the second reading, a bill to establish a regulatory framework for tech startups in Nigeria. Now, this bill, which is an executive bill sent to the House of Representatives by the President, seeks to provide a legal framework for operation of tech startups in the country. There's a section 31, subsection 1 of the bill proposes 35% tax holiday for eligible employees of startups in Nigeria for the period of 2 years from the day of engagement. It goes on to say an eligible employee of a label startup shall be entitled to personal income tax exemption of 35% on the income of the employee for a period of 2 years from the date of engagement by the labeled startup. That's what the section reads. So interesting just out there, first of all, because there are a lot of startups springing up around Nigeria. Different people, putting businesses out there. Tech has gone to the fore of it. But I'll go over to Shola on this particular conversation. Shola, over to you.
Yeah, I can't hear you very well. If you can hear me, can you come up again?
Yes, I can hear you. I said on this conversation, over to you on your input.
That's why I'm telling you, I didn't hear you from the start.
Okay. All right. So the conversation we're having is the second conversation on our plan today. The idea of employees of startups getting 35% tax breaks, and that's a bill that the Federal House of Reps has passed, which has passed second reading, and that's it, basically, the idea of establishing a regulatory framework and that. But before you, Shola, I'll come to my guest in the studio. What's your take on this story?
The bill passing second reading is a good one, because ordinarily what the government does is look at this situation in the country and try to find an engineering way of making sure that things work. So if this is an approach that the government is using now to encourage startups, then it's a good idea, and I think it's a welcome development.
All right. So, but as you see, how much do you think this can encourage startups? We're talking about tax exemptions, but you know also what bedevils business people in Nigeria. The basic things, the policies that stand basically just stand against them. It is the point at the point of emergence of a startup, that is where you can now start factoring what the tax and the value that will come out will be. But beyond that, is this enough?
Nigerians are very resilient ordinarily. Whether you give them this tax break or not, they unfortunately, some people have already found a way of surviving. So, which is not supported by how much the government is contributing. So if the government is now coming to support the employees of these startups, maybe thinking that they are not well remunerated and all that, I think it's a good idea. The other issue is the entrepreneurs themselves, those who go into these businesses before, of course, the employees are the secondary consideration here. Those ones face a lot of issues, and I think that the government should really look in that direction. This is a good idea, but the government should look more on the entrepreneurs.
All right. Shola, you want to join the conversation now?
Yeah, it's a good topic and very good to discuss, but we cannot continue to look at one angle. Friday, in the face of our infrastructural deficits, can this play any impact?
Yeah, when you look at the infrastructural deficit, I think it affects more of the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the merchants, far more than it affects their employees. But then, of course, whatever happens to the business risk taker affects his employees. So if the government is doing this, the government has now narrowed its mind to say, we understand that if this affects your business owners, then your business owner is not going to pay you as much as you're supposed to earn. Therefore, we're going to give you some break. We're going to give you some soft landing so that to cushion what you do not get from your employers. But overall, the focus should be more on creating a good business environment for Nigerians.
We are cutting off tax from the startup of the workers, but the major player in the industry are still paying this tax, and there are no infrastructure. Don't you think it will add up to the cost of the output, and it will still come back onto the adding to the burden of the workers, because they are still going out there to consume, to purchase, to use all these tight infrastructure we are talking about.
The major players in the industry have already found their ways. They have found their ways around, and that is a dangerous thing, not for the major players, but for the economy. Because some persons who cannot find their way like others, like we always say, survival of the fittest, some persons who cannot find their way crash out or sometimes fizzle out of business and things like that. That is why the bigger picture should be, how do we make sure that our environment is business friendly? How do we make sure that people are motivated to put themselves to task and all that? And of course, in looking at that, we know 1 million plus roles that the government can play, and we expect the government to do that.
Basically, this cutoff cannot solve any problem. The burden is too much. They should have played more role in bringing up our infrastructure. What do you think?
Yeah, that's no question at all, because it's what is expected. But what this bill does, in my thinking, is that the bill now emphasizes the fact that we know that these problems are there. Even though we have not come to solve the problem, let us attack the possible effect it has on employees. I think that's what this business analytically is trying to do.
They are trying to solve secondary problem when there is primary problem.
Yeah, it's treating
the
bill is treating symptoms rather than the disease.
Is that the way to go?
Not at all. Not the way to go. But of course, we have so many other things that are going on in this country that we know that is not the way to go. And that brings me to my strong criticism of the people who claim to be leaders of the country right now.
Truly, there is terrible deficit on our infrastructure. How do we come out of it? We can continue to talk about this over and over. How do we solve this deficit? It's becoming too much.
Somebody will say that we are talking for development, so we will not get tired of talking about them. One way to get out of the challenges, the numerous challenges, whether it's economic, security, education, and all that, one way to get out of it is this next election. This next election, it has a lot to do with who we become and who we continue to be. This next election, people should by now begin to get out on the street and tell ourselves the truth. I am an advocate of tell ourselves the truth.
I hope you are not bringing a magician this time around.
Say again.
He hopes you're not bringing a
You are
magician.
not bringing up a magician this time around.
No, some of us have good intention for our country. We love this country so much. We don't have any other one. So we are always persuaded when it comes to good governance, when it comes to fairness, when it comes to an ideal society. I'm actually a student of an ideal society, what a society should be. A society where even though we cannot get a perfect society, but if we can get an ideal society where a child wakes up in the morning and knows that he or she is going to school, I sympathize with those who are at home because of ASU strike. An ideal society where a woman can go to market hoping to use 5 naira to make a pot of soup. That's an ideal society. An ideal society tells us that we should not have more beggars than givers. That's an ideal society. And that's what I stand for.
Yeah, I share your dreams. I hope it comes to reality.
All right.
We are hoping.
Thank you so much, Shola. Chinyere, on to you on this conversation, please.
Thank you so much, Nia. Mr. Friday Obodo has said a couple of things that I will take him on. He said the focus should be more on the entrepreneurs and not on the employees. But my first question would be that we've seen a lot of unstructured companies in Nigeria, and employees have had to suffer because of lack of structure. But again, the question is, people who get into businesses in Nigeria, shouldn't they work with the subsisting Nigeria labor law, and then the provisions of the Labor Act, saying that if that is done, then we see employers who will not work against the Nigerian labor law. For instance, we see some workers make their employees to work 7 days a week, as against 5 days a week, and employees are made to work for long hours as against 8 hours. So some of these things can be checked and regulated, and that's why I'm asking if the Nigerian labor law shouldn't be part of a prerequisite for startups to work with.
We have a free society in the negative sense. Free society in the sense that nobody checks anybody. But in the negative sense, because many people have exploited us, exploited our workers. When you talk about some people working 6 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week, I can even tell you that there are persons who are working 7 days a week and nobody is speaking for them. We also know that the system is that I wonder how many people survive in this country. I strongly wonder how many people survive. And that is why you can find a lot of malfeasance. A lot of persons do things that are beyond the ordinary. They do not explain to you how they are doing it. I tell you one thing. If you go to Apple, for instance, Apple will tell you from A to Z of how it has made its successes. But call a typical Nigerian businessman, he is very hesitant to explain to you how his business is running. Because the moment he opens up on the running of his business, you find criminalities. I'm talking about this because you drew our attention to labor law and all that. When you talk about labor law, then we're exposed to legal considerations of activities going on within our workspace. And I can tell you that a lot of things are not normal. A lot of persons contravene the law on daily basis. And like I said, a free society, but in negative sense, so nobody monitors anybody.
All right, Mr. Friday, before I let you go, the bill has passed second reading. It's a laudable approach. It's a good thing that we see happen thanks to Twitter, because we saw the hashtag before the bill is being discussed. But the thing is, how about the issue of supervision? Whether the bill has passed second reading or finally, if it's finally assented to, how does government intend to keep tabs in terms of supervising workplaces to ensure that employers work in tandem with this bill?
The question becomes, does government even know some of these are startups, so to speak? Does government even know who is employed? We have a wonderful society. Of course, we all love our country, but we have a society where records are not kept, because the moment you want to keep records, some people will think you're fighting against them. So, yeah, this is what happens. I have talked about this severally, and to a different society, and then back to Nigeria. When I look at things side by side, how it should work, how records are considered the working of the Nigerian system. You and I know, it's always in the news, and you hear people say that there are ghost workers. So that gives you an idea of the operational dynamics of our country. We don't know how many persons are employed in an establishment, because a lot of issues, my sister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Friday Obodo, for coming on the program. It's always refreshing having you around. It's back to you, Nia Barry, Port Harcourt, for the rest of the show.
Okay, so on to this last conversation before we check out. Massive job cuts loom as the dollar hits 590. So forex scarcity is seen to say to bite harder. So this lingering of foreign exchange scarcity in the country is continue to worsen everything from the exchange rate on the parallel markets, and it's itching towards 590 to a dollar. So this development has led to massive job loss in the manufacturing industries, among other sectors, according to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. So the development comes over 8 months after the central bank has stopped the sale of forex to Bureau de change operators and promised to boost liquidity in commercial banks. So as we now know, the exchange rate is where it is, and on the black market it's quite high. But the question here is this: where are we now? These are the issues coming from this, and jobs are going to be obviously lost, and it's going on and on and on. What do you think we can do about this particular issue of the dollar and how it affects jobs in Nigeria?
Job will be lost in a country that superimposes another currency over its own currency. In fact, what is happening now is not so much to do with the question of exchange rate, but it's to do with alternate currency. In a situation, dollars anyhow without considering the integrity and sovereignty of the country. Because when we talk about sovereignty of a country, it also defines the currency of that country. But here we are, we find the dollar, our currency has been so dollarized. I've said this over and over, and I'll continue to say it. And I think it's a terrible idea. I don't remember ever going to spend the naira in the UK, for instance. I don't remember that. But here we spend the dollar any here and there. And so it's not so much to do with exchange. It's to do with the fact that as you are going for APC convention on Saturday, you'll be surprised that most of the people, the delegates, will be given money in dollar. They will be given money in dollar. And what impact is that having on our economy is what people are not looking at. One of the consequences, what we are discussing in this news now, job losses. Because our naira is weakening every day, and the way society is structured, we depend on export much as we benefit from, we depend on import much as we benefit from export. And these things are not helping when our own naira is weakening every day. So the consequence becomes that if I am into, for instance, glass production, and then I import it from America at a very high cost, then when I come back, looking at the cost of production, I might want to say, okay, I have 15 staff. I think what the 15 of you are doing, 12 can do it for me, so that I waive the cost of having to pay the 3 other guys. While I'm taking that decision, which I am entitled to take, the consequence is that there's a job loss, and there's nothing we can do about it. It brings us back to the question of what the House of Reps is doing. If that amounts to strengthening our economy by reintroducing coin into our economy and making sure that our naira becomes stronger, then we'll be happier.
Okay. Lagos 1 minute, Abuja 1 minute. Chinyere, over to you.
Thank you so much, Niabari. All right, so Mr. Friday, one question for you. There are speculations out there that this may be unconnected with the electioneer as elections are around the corner, adding that some politicians are beginning to mop up dollars and driving up the demand. The people who would need the dollars wouldn't have access to it, and they'll be left with no choice to patronize the parallel market. Do you think this is true?
It is a possibility, but more than that is the fact that our naira is so weak now. Our naira is so weak that it actually amounts to nothing, and so everybody is tilting towards the dollar, and it's affecting our businesses.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Friday Obudu, for coming on the program. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your analysis. Back to you, Niabari, for the rest of the show.
All right. Shola, over to you. One last thought, 1 minute.
Friday, are you saying no dollar, no APC convention?
No dollar, no APC convention.
You know what Jesus said when they were about to crucify him? He said, "Thou sayest."
Thanks for being part of this program this morning.
All right, thank you so much, Shola, for that. Thank you so much, Comrade Friday Obodo, for making it into the studio today. This is where we get to talk on the Atlantic
my pleasure.
Blowout. Chinyere, thank you so much for joining the show this morning. And